This is going to be one of my longer videos where we just sit here, hang out, and repot some plants. So I wanted to film today because the past few days it's been super rainy and windy in California. If you're in California, then you know what I'm talking about. Finally, today is the day where it's not raining, and it was supposed to be sunny, but now the clouds are coming in, but that's okay. That is fine. Okay, so the first plant that we are repotting is this. It is a Sephora prostrata. I haven't grown this plant before. And then we're also going to put it in this pot from Sanso. I think these two are a really good pairing together. Like I mentioned previously, I'm starting to do some interior plant design for clients, and I have my first job coming up, and the client really likes like Asian aesthetic, like minimal Asian aesthetic plant design. And I thought that this plant would be perfect for that because it has those small leaves and it has a twig branch-like appearance to it. And then also this pot is perfect for that aesthetic. So yeah, I love like a tall plant with a tall pot like this. It just works super well together. Look at that. So what I'm using is a mix of cactus soil, succulent soil, and then a good amount of pumice. Also, because this is for a client's home, this will make it a lot easier for them to water because they don't have to worry about overwatering since there is so much pumice in the mix. So first we put in a little bit of soil at the bottom. Give it a shake. That's good. And then I leave enough room on the top so that way I can put in the top dressing. I have two different top dressings I'm thinking of using. I have this one that I got from Japan. It's very light and it's multicolored. Give you a closer look at that. It turns a little bit darker when you get the dust off. Then I have this one that is a little bit more rocky and slightly more pink in color. I'm gonna spray these just so I can see what kind of color will come out of it once the dust is washed off. So you can see this one is kind of orangish. Let's see, do I like that? That one does look pretty good. Or would this one be better? I think I like this color more. I think this works better. Okay, I'll go with this one. Cleaning this out so there's no dirt on the top dressing. And pour this in. This tool makes it so much easier to add top dressing. And just a little bit more. I like to fill it up all the way to the top just to give it like a flushed look. Now let's give it a little spray. So here is the finished look. I think this is pretty nice. This is my own personal pot, but I haven't found a very good use for it. And I think it would be perfect for the aesthetic that the client is looking for. This job that I'm doing isn't even really happening yet. I still need to go to their house and check out the space, but I'm pretty sure this would be perfect, and if not, I'll just keep it for myself. But that job is happening in March, so in 1 month. The next plant we're going to repot is this orchid, and we're going to put it in this cage. I don't know what else to call it, but like this cage pot that I got from this Taiwanese brand called Tribus Studio. This pot has such a cool look to it. So the outside is black lava rock, and then the inside is like this mesh, so you can put substrate and stuff inside of it, and it gives very good aeration to what's ever growing inside. I want to keep the media that it's in actually, so I'm just going to empty the pot inside of here. I'm happy that the roots aren't too long, because sometimes when roots of orchids are super long, it's very difficult for me to work on it. Isn't that nice? The roots of this are looking pretty good. And this is like the perfect amount of substrate. I want to make this centered. Look at can I do this? So I wanted this to be centered, but because of the way that the roots are growing, it's not allowing me to make it centered inside of this pot. So it's just gonna not be centered, and that's fine. That's kind of cool sometimes when it's asymmetrical. At least that's what I'm telling myself. I think that's all I'm gonna add for the substrate, and then I'm gonna put some live moss on top. This is cushion moss. I'm gonna have this available on my website for sale soon. I think maybe within a week of posting this video, it will be available to purchase, so keep your eye out. I love this moss. It's been doing so well for me as a top dressing for my houseplants. It's actually growing very well. I'll talk more about it later in a future video, but the only problem is that for it to like look really good, you do have to use some type of like distilled or reverse osmosis water, something that's free of like chlorines and minerals. Otherwise you start seeing mineral deposits forming on the top of the moss. It'll still grow, it's just that there's like mineral deposits on it. Okay, so I'm just gonna break this up and then place it around the pot. So when you put this moss in, you actually kind of want to squish it down into the substrate, and that is because it will eventually grab onto whatever substrate it's growing on. And then I found that once it starts grabbing onto the substrate below, that's when it actually starts growing for you and putting out new moss growth. I break the moss up into smaller pieces, and it's kind of like a puzzle trying to figure out where the moss pieces will fit. I try and make it pretty, what's it called? Tight? Yeah, I try to make everything pretty tight and squished in here. This orchid's gonna be so pretty when it blooms. I don't mind that it's off center. I think it works fine, especially since we have this moss here. But I love like the dark purple and how it interacts with the stainless steel silver here, and then also the green moss just tops it all off. Love it. Okay, let's give this moss a little spray. So this is a bulb plant. I believe the Latin name is Ledicobria. And yeah, I got this actually from my mom. My mom let me take this from their house because they have a bunch of these. So I have this pot that I got from Jahao. He sells it on his website. It's like a raindrop, teardrop pot. And I'm gonna put this plant inside of here. It's kind of like an odd plant, and this is also an odd pot. So I think it would work well together. I wouldn't really say that this pot is necessarily my style, but I do think it's kind of cool. Okay, I think that works pretty well. I removed a lot of the soil, and now it feels like the bulbs are separating. Should I separate this? Well, I don't know, maybe I should. Well, what would I do with the rest? Okay, no, this one is coming apart too. Okay, what about just this main one? Okay, this main one is what we'll keep in this pot. And then these other two will find another home for you guys. So it's gonna be this way, and then the plant is going to face this way. So I've never grown this plant before, but when I saw it at my parents' house, I was like, oh, I really like the color and the pattern on the leaves. I think it's pretty cool. And my mom was like, do you want it? Here you go. So I took it. And it's been in that little nursery pot for the longest time. So the soil mix that I'm using is pretty much the same. It's like a cactus soil mix with some pumice. I don't actually know what kind of soil this thing wants, but I'm assuming it's fairly well draining because it's bulbous. So the bulb likely stores some water in there. Okay, so before I add the top dressing, I'm going to spray this down a little bit, so that way there isn't any dirt or soil that ends up mixing with the top dressing. I don't actually know what kind of top dressing I want to use for this. It has a black pot, and it doesn't have that much green, so I think that the moss might be a really nice contrast with the black pot. And otherwise, I think I would like to use like a black lava rock or a black top dressing, but I don't have any black top dressing right now. So I tried this red kind of rocky top dressing, but I don't like how it looks because it's warmer, and I feel like the whole palette, the whole color palette of the pot and the plant are more cool toned. So I think it doesn't really work that well. I do think that the moss will be the best. I just don't want to keep using the moss over and over again. But I do think that would be the best option here. Let's bring back the moss. Oh yeah, I think this looks pretty good with it. You see? If you've been following me for a while, you just know that I have been obsessed with moss for the longest time, and it feels so nice to finally find a moss that I can use inside of the house. It's like unheard of, and it's also not even in a terrarium. I don't know if this is such a good idea because the moss is kind of in contact with the bulb, so I hope the bulb doesn't rot. Okay, this one is too low. I'm actually going to remove this lower one. Yeah, that's better. Okay, now I don't think that'll be a problem. Like I said, I like to kind of squeeze the moss in and pack it in because I find that way it doesn't really dry out as fast because it makes a pretty moist environment for the moss. And it also just generally looks nicer too, I think. Let's spray this off a little bit. It's kind of like the orchid that we just repotted, like a similar color palette with the black pot and then the green moss, and then also the foliage is kind of similar to the foliage on the orchid. Now we are going to do something that I haven't really done in a very long time. We are making a kokedama, and we're going to use this plant. It is a Sarissa fotida. It creates these really cute little pink or purple flowers. I don't know yet because they haven't flowered for me. I think it's a pink one. I think I got a pink one. Then also look at this pot. I really like this pot. It's a rice husk fiber pot, and so it'll biodegrade within like 5 years. So it's a really good alternative to like plastic nursery pots, and I think it also looks nice. Like I like the color. So yeah, we're gonna make this into a kokedama with live moss wrapped around it. So I recently watched this YouTube video that used this method to make kokedamas that I haven't really seen before. So I am gonna try it. So what you do is you get some type of like mesh net fabric, and then you put akidama in it. That's this type of soil that's commonly used for bonsai. And so you put the akidama in it, and then you put your plant in it, and then you just tie it up and make it into a ball shape. This is a lot easier than trying to form the ball shape out of soil or moss or whatever it is that you're using. So this is used for soap. This is the closest thing that I could find to the Japanese YouTube channel. It's like a netting for making bubbles with soap or something like that. I got it out of its pot, and now what you want to do is remove as much of the soil as you can. So I'm going to go bring this over to my hose and go do that. Now what we're going to do is put this inside of this mesh net, and then pour the akidama in with the plant inside. That way it gets all in between the roots. Before I would make kokedamas with like house plants, like tropical house plants and stuff, but I just found that they outgrow the kokedamas so quickly. So I think these more like woody plants often work better. At least this is what I see used for kokedamas in Japan. They use like plants that you could turn into bonsais. I think that's good. Now let's tie this up. My hands are cold, so this is kind of hard to tie it up. Okay. It's so round, or it's so like oval shaped. I'm trying to reshape this more into a ball. I mean, the oval shape could be kind of cool. So I rinsed this off in order to get a lot of the particulates and dust out of the akidama. And after I did that, it actually became a lot easier to shape it into more of a ball shape. Okay, so the next step, let's clean this thing off first. This is also kind of messy, you guys. My plant care tends to be pretty messy. I feel like when people show you plant care and it's all clean and looks really aesthetic and nice, they're putting a lot of work into it to make it look aesthetic and nice, but I like to treat these repotting things as more casual. It puts less pressure on me, and I think it is kind of more fun because it just feels like we're hanging out. So now comes the fun part. I have some live sheet moss, And we are wrapping. I'm scared there's gonna be bugs in here or something. Okay, no bugs. Okay, so I have live sheet moss, and now we are going to wrap this with the sheet moss. It's kind of like a perfect size for this. Fits almost perfectly around this ball. I thought this would be too much, but this actually works pretty well. Now that we have the moss wrapped around the kokedama, I'm gonna use this. This is moss cotton thread from the brand ADA. You can use any thread that you want. This is just some cotton thread that I have from the brand that I use for my aquariums because the color matches really well with moss. Okay, so I'm gonna do my best to tie this around. Maybe I'll start this off by tying it in the middle. I don't remember how I usually do this. I haven't made a kokedama in such a long time. Once here around, and then double knot that so I have an anchor point to go off of. So I'm just gonna take this thread and go around this a couple of times to secure the moss onto this ball. It's starting to take more of a ball shape, which is nice. This thread is cotton, so eventually because of the moisture it'll end up decomposing, and the goal is for this moss to eventually attach to the kokedama soil base that it's on. Okay, so now I just need to tie this off and secure the string. I'll spray it a little bit. Later I'm going to take it inside and probably soak it, but let's just spray it off to make it look a little bit more live. So this is sheet moss, this is live sheet moss, and I might eventually also have this for sale in my shop, so keep an eye out for that. My idea for this kokedama was to be able to put it on this dish, so look at that. It's pretty nice, fits well. Next, we have this. It is a Hohenbergia, it's a bromeliad. I bought this, and I thought it was going to be a lot smaller because, well, there was no reference to how large this plant was. It was just a picture of the plant on its own. And yeah, I thought it would be like half the size. So I don't know if it's gonna work in this pot, but we're gonna try it out. So this is a cube stainless steel planter from the brand Tripos Studio, also from Taiwan. It's the same brand that makes this pot. So like I said, way bigger than I thought. We're still gonna try it, see if it works. If it doesn't, I'll just find something else to put in here. So it has a ton of roots. Super root bound. Let's see, does it just fit in here? Nope. Okay, well, that's fine. I don't know. I think it would look good, but it's so root bound. I feel bad destroying all of these roots. The goal for this plant in this pot was eventually to use it for a client project. I was thinking of using it for Paige's house when I do her plants, but it's a pretty damaged plant now. I think it's from all the rain that we got. I think it rotted some of the leaves, or it like damaged some of the leaves. So I don't know. I wouldn't want to like give someone a damaged looking plant. I feel like these guys might look cool in here. Well, I don't know. Do they? It kind of does. Okay, I actually do like that. This would look good with black lava rock as a top dressing, but I don't have any black lava rock right now. These ones were just the leftovers that I separated from the other plant. And it's kind of nice to just be able to pot it right now because I was not sure what I was going to do with this. You know what? I think I'm going to put a rock in here. I think this would be the perfect opportunity to use a rock. So with this, we are going to create a rockscape. And these are the rocks that we're using. These are aquarium rocks that I've had for a while. Type of like Japanese river rock. I love the color. I think it works. It's sort of. Actually, I don't love the color with the stainless steel. I think this is like a little bit too blue. Should we just try it anyway? Oh, I was excited. But yeah, now that I'm looking at this, I feel like the color is kind of off. I think if it was a different color, like a black, like a big black lava rock, I think would look really cool, but think the color's off. Okay, that's fine. I think just no rock then. We'll just do no rock for now. But I do think that I could do something really cool with black lava rock with this thing. For the top dressing on this one, I'm actually going to try using pumice. Normally, I don't use pumice as a top dressing, but I think it would work well with the stainless steel. Okay, now I just need to rinse this off. But I do like how the pumice looks with this. I think it would look really good with black lava rock. I just don't have black lava rock. Eventually the bulbs will grow more and it'll fill in. But I actually really like this. It's different from what I normally do, you know, but it has this kind of like cold industrial look to it that juxtaposes the plants really well. Next, I was planning to repot this dickia into this iron stainless steel pot. It's the same pot that we just used, but I'm waiting for it to grow out more because right now it looks a little bit not great, and I want to give it as much sun as I can, so I'm leaving it outside. But this pot isn't supposed to be kept outside, so I'm not going to repot it yet, and I'm going to leave it in the nursery pot outside until it grows a little bit more and looks a bit nicer, and then I'll repot it into this pot. But yeah, this is kind of how it looks to give you an example. Chris was saying that it looks like in a SpongeBob episode when they go into the chrome world in the future. He said that this looks like it got spray painted chrome silver. Okay, next up, we are going to repot my money tree stump. I've had this for such a long time now, and it's been in this pot ever since I got it, and it's grown so much, but now it needs a bigger pot. I like how it looks in here, but I want it to grow taller, so yeah, I have this really cool pot that I'm going to use. So this green pot is from the brand called Monstrosas, and they make beautiful planters. They're kind of like mid-century style, so they fit really well in my house. Typically, I wouldn't be attracted to this color, but it just looks really good with the color palette inside, and I think it also works well with this money tree. So I'm actually working with this brand later this month. They're taking some photos of their planters inside of our house, so I was able to get some free planters from them to use before the photo shoot. That way they can have some plants to shoot for the photo shoot. I really love these. The only problem is that some of them do not have drainage holes in them, and I don't want to drill a drainage hole. So I'm going to do something that is normally not recommended. I'm just going to pot it inside of this pot without a drainage hole. And I wouldn't recommend anyone who's just starting off with plants to do this, but I'm pretty experienced with my house plants, so I know like when they need water based off of how their leaves look. And especially with this Pitcher aquatica, this money tree, it's pretty easy to tell when it needs water, and it's a very hardy plant, so I feel comfortable potting it in a pot without drainage holes. So in order to pot this plant in the pot without drainage holes, I'm going to create a pretty thick layer of pumice. So you can do this with pumice or lava rock or leca, pretty much anything that is an inorganic material. When I water this plant, there is going to be some water pooling at the bottom, pretty much no matter what. And when you have water pooling at the bottom, you don't want any organic materials to be submerged in water for long periods of time, because that is how you get root rot. So instead, it's better to have an inorganic material like pumice at the bottom. I have some live moss as a top dressing for the money tree, so I'm going to take this out so I can use it later. And it attached really well to the soil that it's underneath. Super root bound, but the roots are very healthy, and I'm excited to put this in a larger pot. I want it to grow so much taller. I just love money trees. I think they're just like such a classic plant. I also grew up seeing them so often in Asian stores, so like a nail salon or a restaurant, because these are a sign of prosperity, and people often gift them to businesses for good luck, good fortune, things like that, you know. I have this bowl of pumice. I'm just gonna put it inside of this pot. The pumice is about 3 inches high, I would say, which I think is a good height. We are using Fox Farm Ocean Forest Mix as the main soil base. And then I'm gonna add in a lot of pumice as well. I really prefer using pumice over perlite, and the main reason is that it's heavier than perlite, so it doesn't rise up to the surface whenever you water it. And I think that perlite, when it rises up, it can look kind of ugly. I feel like I'm baking. Well, this is actually a baking ingredient bowl. So I'm patting this down, and I want to use a moss top dressing for this, but I don't have enough of the moss right now to cover this entire surface. So I am going to, well, I'll just put a little bit of the moss on right now. Because I want to add something on top, I'm leaving about 1 inch or 1.5 inches open, so that way there's enough room to put the moss on top. So there we are for this one. It's not done yet because I still need to add more of the moss on the top. Or maybe, should I use a rock top dressing? No, I'm gonna use moss. I've just been so into the moss lately. I'm gonna be really careful about watering this plant, especially right now because it doesn't have an established root system in the pot, and because we increased the pot size so much, and because there are no drainage holes. And most of the soil is already moist because of the rain, so I'm just gonna leave it. Maybe mist the top a little bit, but I'm not gonna actually water the soil right now. The final plant that I'm showing, also I'm out of breath because I was just moving a lot of soil and stuff off screen. But yes, okay, so the final plant isn't really a plant for display. I'm actually just using this as a grow plant, so something that I can use to grow more of these to propagate them and then sell. So I already have one mother plant kind of, and now I'm making another mother plant. So I have all of these cuttings of my Passiflora columboxii that I'm going to be planting in this pot. I am going to be selling Passiflora columboxii again on my website, in my store. So I used to sell these Passifloras a lot, like maybe 1 or 2 years ago. And people have been asking for me to sell them again, so I'm making another mother plant. And a reason why I stopped selling these and growing these is because it's just a lot of work to like package and grow and ship plants, because when shipping plants, it is difficult to ensure that they are going to arrive safely and arrive on time and arrive alive, and hope that, you know, like the post office people don't destroy it or the heat doesn't kill it. You know, sometimes like out of 25 plants or so, I would get an email saying that like my plant arrived dead, or there were problems with it, which is totally like expected and normal. And everyone was also really nice about it too. Like no one was mean. I never had a bad customer experience during selling these. But after a while, it does just become a lot, just having to deal with orders and keep track of everything. So I just stopped for a while, but now I'm like, you know, spring is coming around. You have all this space now. Let's grow these again. So yeah, that's the story behind the Passifloras. I still get people saying like, I don't know where to get this plant, please sell it again. So I would have expected by now that like someone had started mass producing these, but I guess not. Let's do a little recap. This was the Sophora prostrata that I'm probably going to use for a client's home. This slipper orchid. I love this thing. I think, well, okay, which is my favorite thing that I did here? I'll say that this is my favorite because this is my first time trying this method and it turned out well. And I finally get to use this shallow dish planter that I got from Japan that I've been meaning to use for the longest time. And it actually turned out so nice. So yeah, I think this is my favorite. Okay, and then we have the bulb plant in the raindrop tier planter with a live moss top dressing. And then next we have the metal cube with the bulb plant with a pumice top dressing. And then the next plant that we did was the money tree and the green planter. I would bring it on screen, but it's kind of big. I'm happy with what we did today. Can't wait to display these in my house. And then I think soon I'm going to do a houseplant tour whenever Chris has some free time and he can help me, because I need him to record for me while I walk around. But yeah, I feel like it's time to do a new houseplant tour for 2024. I do a houseplant tour every year, and I feel like this year is my biggest change in terms of my houseplant collection. Okay, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.